never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys. We are in the house today, and today I just want to put a trigger warning out there because we are going to be talking about grief for all my listeners out there. But I want to thank everybody for joining me on Tea Time this year for season 6. We're almost at the end of the road, guys. We got a couple tea times left, but today we have Marcia Earhart in the house, and we're going to talk about her story and her incredible work that she's doing through loss and grief. We're going to talk about the Sterling Rose Sanctuary. If you haven't heard about it, check it out. We're going to get that all up on the screen for you guys, and we're going to have an incredible tea time. Today's tea time is breathe again, move again, and live again. That is the tea we are serving tonight in the house. We're going to talk about some books, her book, and all of that good stuff. And we're even going to bring up some holiday season tips and tools you can use. We're going to talk about a lot of incredible stuff today. But you guys all know how Miss Liz rolls. Get over to Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, all those good platforms, and give those a like, follow, and subscribe, and get these tea times out, because I guarantee each of these tea times do make a difference. Let's get started with the disclaimer, and then I got a beautiful intro for Marcia, and then we're going to spill some tea together. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com, or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, I want to welcome everybody to Tea Time, where healing conversations create safe places for truth, restoration, and hope. Today, we welcome a woman whose life work is rooted in compassion, dignity, and the power of sanctuary. Joining us is Marcia Earhart, founder of the Sterling Rose Sanctuary. Marcia's mission is deeply human-based to create spaces where individuals can feel protected, supported, and seen as they rebuild their lives. Her work reflects courage, care, and a profound commitment to healing that goes beyond survival and moves towards restoration. Sterling Rose Sanctuary stands as a reminder that safety is sacred and that healing happens best in environments grounded in trust, respect, and community. Marcy brings not only leadership to this work, but heart, the kind that listens first and walks beside others through their journey forward. So grab your cup and settle in. Today's Tea Time invites us to us into conversations about sanctuary, resilience, and what it truly means to offer refuge with purpose. Let me get Marcia in here and let's spill some tea together.
Hey there.
Welcome.
How are you today?
I am not too bad. In yourself?
Doing great. So love this time of year.
So, Marcy, I want to talk about who you were as a little girl first and who you are now so that my guests can get a little insight of who you are as an individual.
Well, as a little girl, my life and first memory is of loss at 3.5 of my great grandmother. So that really redefined, I believe, who my life has turned out to be, of how my life is. But as a little girl, I really understood the brevity of life. So I think I loved life. I loved people, but I took life very seriously because I experienced a lot of loss as a little girl. And I always have enjoyed creating, being artistic. My mother was a very artistic woman and taught me well. Before repurpose was a thing in our society, we repurposed in our house. We would buy furniture, redo it. So I feel I had a great childhood as far as my mom and my dad teaching and training me. However, I was picked on. I was bullied my whole life because I wasn't that silly little girl that other girls were. And I had a real deep faith in the Lord Jesus as a little girl, and that continued. And so there were people that really made fun of me, and I didn't have a group that I would become a part of. I really learned that you love all people and that there is something you can learn from everyone. So I have embraced that most of my life. And I love people. I enjoy being around them. And interestingly enough, even from as a little girl, people came to me with their stories. And I found myself being the one to encourage and help them along.
So, Marcy, who are you today?
Same person, just bigger, stronger, and fuller in the sense of knowing who I really am and as a child of God, as a daughter of the King. I love my husband, love my children, love my friends, love well. And I love deep conversations. If you want a shallow person, don't come to me because we're going to go deep. So I'm not a shallow person. I love the beach, love walking on the beach, love going to the beach, love doing activities with family and friends. I really enjoy life and I love what I do as a life, grief, trauma, brain, mental health coach. I feel very blessed and honored when invited into people's stories. So I'm just wide open.
I love that you love deep conversations because I love serving deep tea. And, you know, I'm the same. I don't want to talk about all the nonsense. I want to talk about the good stuff.
Me
I want
too.
to talk about the difference. I want to turn the pain into purpose. You know, there's so many that have stories that are still living in their pain, but they're not finding their purpose behind it. And I want to get into your story a little bit. And I do want to put a trigger warning out there for all of my listeners and who are going to watch the replay. Today, we're going to talk about subjects that are close to Marcia's heart, Marcy's heart, and a lot of deep connection tonight. We're going to talk about breathe again, move again, and live again. I really love your tea because I like the word again. Mm-hmm. Let's get into your tea and then we'll get into your story.
Okay.
So why'd you give me those 3?
In grief, we stop breathing. We stop having deep breaths. We become shallow in our breathing. And life can stop us in our tracks quickly. It's important that we know how to breathe again. What does that look like? And moving when we have grief and trauma, quite often we become inactive. It becomes a sedentary life. It can be sedentary physically, it can be sedentary mentally, emotionally, in the sense of it just kind of settles and we don't have any activity to stir us.
Yeah.
I believe it's important that we intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, physically move. We're opening ourselves up to have that movement, to get out in nature, to walk, to enjoy the beauty that is around us, because in nature, things are living. And if we're feeling a sense of death within ourselves, nothing like getting a shot in the arm and going outside, walking around, riding a bike, taking a great hike, putting your feet in the sand. And then to live again, I think quite often with grief and trauma, it robs us, or it can, of the life that we were meant to continue to have. Not that we're going to go back to where we were, but it's a transformation to a new thing. And so to live again is that it's a reset and it's transformation into the newness of what life holds for us now, with the purpose coming forth out of the pain in which we've experienced.
Marcia, let's take a step back and let's share a little bit of the backstory before we get into the Sterling Rose Sanctuary and why it was created and that. But if you could share with my listeners out there the backstory before this.
So backstory is I was trained in family relations, child development, and have loved the places God has called me throughout my life, and would work with people who have had trauma and have had grief and loss throughout the years. And then in 2014, even though I'd already had significant losses, we lost our oldest son, who was 21. He was in law school, lived with us, and actually passed on the street we lived on. And so in that moment, when the officers were at our house, life imploded and we all died to who we were. We would no longer be the mom, the friend, the child, the parent, any of that as to what we were before that happened. And we gave ourselves permission that we've died. And I had 2 children living with me at the time, along with my son that passed. And we had these very intentional conversations over our own death, over his death, over how do we manage life from here on. And because of the resources that I had, we would sit down and talk about the things that triggered each of us and the things that caused healing for each of us. So Liz, some of those very things that could cause a trigger for one of us could be healing to the other one. So we came to a place of how can we incorporate what we all need to heal, but also the things that are triggering that we don't get triggered. So we found ways to incorporate that. It took us working together, being open, having that honest communication, and allowing for ourselves to experience the rawness of the grief. And it wasn't just one loss. The loss of a life entails many things. It's the loss of their community, the loss of the presence, their sense of humor. It's the loss of those conversations, the present and the future. And my kids lost their childhood in that moment, and they would never have a childhood again. And that's not a never like, oh, yes, they will. No, they really would not. My 12-year-old could never be that child again, because there had been this impact that was so dark, that was beyond what he was able to really comprehend, because his brother was not just his brother, it was his best friend, it was his mentor, it was his hero. Sterling was everything to everyone in our family, because he was the oldest and he really did lead well. And that in of itself was amazing. So there are layers that we had to walk through, and we traveled through that process. And in 2017, the Lord said, you need to start a sanctuary for other people. Now, interestingly, that he called that because when our son passed, I looked for a place for our entire family to go for healing, and there was no such place at all. There was a place for my children to go by themselves, and there was a place for my husband and I to go. At that time, there was not a place. So if we're willing to allow our pain to be purposed, in which that's what the Lord was saying, I really want this purpose for this. And I was willing, and our family was willing. So we started the Sterling Rose Sanctuary. And initially, it was to minister, and we had already been ministering, so since 2015, to many parents who had lost a child or were being told their child was not going to make it or had died. And so we would show up, be present. And it started initially for an individual parents and for grandparents. And then in 2020, our board came back and said, no, this needs to be for everybody now because it's everywhere. And so it is for everyone. And so really the platform for what we do is that there's trauma and grief, but the Lord says he opens the door for healing so that we can walk out of that prison. And I believe grief quite often becomes a prison for many people. They may have a spirit of grief versus grieving with hope. We grieve with hope, and it's very different. And we experienced both sides in our family. It's not like all of us were grieving with hope. Everybody has their own way of processing this, and that was allowed. And so we started the ministry in 2017. And then in 2019, our second oldest son was murdered with his girlfriend from an ex-boyfriend that had been estranged for a year and a half. And we started the journey all over again. And when I say all over again, that's why we talk about the word again. We had just gotten to a point in 2019 in the fall where my son, who at the time when my first one passed was 12, I think he had just turned 18, had just made it through the first birthday of Sterling's and through our birthdays in October, where there was not an emotional implosion. And within a week, our second son was murdered. So we had the tools, we had the resources, and not that we didn't grieve, because we did, but we had everything available to us that we had already been applying to our lives to help us walk this one out.
Marcia, you lost two of your sons through different ways. Grief it kills us instantly, right? It makes us a different person completely right away. The impact of losing a loved one. At 3.5, you mentioned you lost your grandma. So at 3.5, that was your first impact of loss.
It was my great-grandmother. And I will tell you, I did not realize until I was in college, I kept having a recurring dream that my dad was holding me and I was overlooking a casket, and there was this woman in the casket. And I went home and said to my mom, I said, I keep having this dream. I feel like it actually happened. And my mom said it did. That was your great-grandmother. And immediately I remembered when she put the context of what, and she said, you were so upset. And I said, well, and then the dream, this is the conversation I'm having. I look at this woman, which was my great-grandmother, and I look at my dad and I said, where is she? Well, I want to talk to her. And he said, well, she's gone home to be with Jesus. I said, well, I want to go be with Jesus. Where is Jesus? Because I want to go see Jesus and I want to see my great-grandmother. And so my dad starts explaining to me, and he said, well, it doesn't work quite like that. So he's telling me, And I said, well, I want to know this Jesus, because if she gets to be with Jesus, I want to get to be with Jesus. But I was the fact of seeing her in that coffin was, I think, more than my little self knew how to process at the time. So as a parent, we made the decision our kids would not see anyone in a casket. That's a very Southern thing. And I'm from the South, unless they were old enough to make that decision themselves. Because I feel like some of the decisions and choices that we make, we don't realize that the age appropriate or lack of age appropriateness in our culture. So we really wanted our kids to, and my older kids, when my father passed in 2005, my oldest son wanted to see my father. And he said, I want to go see. I didn't even see my father, but he wanted to, because some people need that for their own healing. Some people need that. And so no judgment, but we want our children, and we wanted to be able to choose. But it made such an impact on my life. It was a redefining my entire life, not a defining. I want to make that clear. Grief does not define us unless we say it defines us.
Well, nothing really truly defines us, Marcia, unless we allow it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
When we give the power to the definition, then it defines us.
That's right.
And I always say this, you're not telling me my story. I'm telling my story.
That's right. Yes. I love that.
Marcia, how did the grief impact you with the two sons? Was there a different way of grieving because of the way of loss?
Well, interestingly enough, this is where the difference was. I still was processing some things from the loss of my first son, working through that, because I'm also with my kids, being very intentional to be with them, talking with my husband, and trying to work with him on certain things. And I'll clarify that in a minute. But after my second son passed, I would grieve over certain aspects of him. And then my first son would come in, and I felt this conflict, because I needed to grieve each one separately. And now they're kind of both in the same space. And I had to dialogue this out with the Father, and said, Lord, I need to have each in a space right now, because I'm having confliction, and I'm almost feeling guilty grieving one, not the other. And neither all in the same space. And I really can't have them all in the same space. So in this beautiful way, he created a space where both of them are separately, but then there's a space where they both are together. So when I need to grieve one, I can, without feeling guilty or overwhelmed or frustrated. And when I need to grieve them both, like at the holidays, I can, and they're in that space. And so the space at the holidays would be the memories that we shared as a family together at the holidays. The spaces individually would be our unique relationship, my unique relationship with each of my children, so that they're not marred, because it's not one loss. Again, they're separate losses, and they hold separate meanings to me based on our relationships and the journey that we walked.
As a mom, I lost my daughter when I was 14 from stillborn, and a loss of a child is hard to overcome. But we have to look at our children as our guardian angels now. They're watching over us. They're pushing us. They're encouraging us to stay strong and stay in the faith. I know faith is what got me through my daughter at such a young age. Your faith has given you hope. And like you said, grieving with hope. So with the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, did you incorporate that into the healing process for other families?
Yes. If you're a believer, that is very much a part. We do work with people that are not believers. But the hope for me as a believer, and that I have a relationship with Jesus, is that I have the hope of heaven. I have that ongoing hope in me that fuels me. And when you were talking about they're looking over, I just today was talking about the cloud of witnesses. You know, and scripture talks about the cloud of witnesses. My children would be part of that cloud of witnesses because they both were believers, cheering me on in this life. And they want me to live my life in the fullness, not squander it away. And so I take that very seriously, that I've been given opportunity after opportunity to live in the fullness of life. And I don't want to miss anything. And when I get home, I want the Lord to say, wow, you used up every ounce of what I gave you. I mean, we were coming close here because you were just all in it. So, and you're right, losing a child. And I work with so many that have lost a child. It's finding the purpose in it, being able to incorporate it moving forward. Because I always tell people, my kids are with me because their memories are with me. I don't mean they physically, I mean they are with me because of the memories and the experiences. And that's in my DNA. That's never going to leave me. So wherever I go, that goes with me. And I think that's how we have to look at our losses. And hey, there's loss of more than just people. I mean, we have losses of dreams, we have losses of our health, but we have to incorporate those things within us and have an attitude of gratitude. I am very grateful. When I start crying, if I have a moment of just sorrow, of just missing, this is kind of how it looks for me. I'll let the tears flow. I give myself permission, but I am thanking the Lord for that child was present with me, and I'll list the multitude of things that we got to do together and the memories. And then there is this joy that comes right back into the place that it was meant to reside, because I have an understanding that I can have sorrow and joy sharing the same space.
I love that quote, that word permission, because we don't give ourselves permission to grieve. Society tells us get over it. They're gone. Right. Move forward. That's right. They put a time limit on this. Okay, it's 6 months. Get over it. Yep. But grief can take years, can take months, can take days. It's different for everyone. And I think that word permission is okay to say. I give permission for myself to heal. I give permission for myself to have hope again. I give myself permission to move forward. Like you said, breathe, move, and live again. I give permission. The good Lord wants us to have permission on our lives so that when we meet him, he says, you did what I wanted you to do. Yes. You didn't sit back in the pain. You didn't hold it back. You created this purpose. And I found out so much incredible stuff about the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, the rooms and all of that. I want to talk about the rooms a little bit. And I want to talk about the sanctuary, on how people can connect with you for all of that stuff. Because some of these rooms are incredible. I have a list of the rooms here, but we'll talk about the rooms, Marcia. I'm just going to list them and then we can talk about each one. The Sterling Rose Ministry Mission, the Rose and Thorn Room, the Butterfly Room, the Soaking and Healing Room, the Workout Room, the Garden, Music Therapy Room, and the Art Therapy Room. I want to talk about those rooms.
Yes. Well, first of all, so in the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, we work all over the U.S. and in 6 countries right now. And our first conversation with people is, have you given yourself permission to grieve? Because I'm giving you permission. And quite often when I give people permission that have been traumatized and are grieving, they'll start crying because they have not. They have felt they've needed to hold it together for somebody or for themselves, that I've got to be strong around my children. I've got to show an example. And I'm like, but what you're missing is that you're denying yourself the ability to heal the way you need to, and you also are not teaching those around you how to grieve. My parents taught me how to grieve. Praise God, they really did teach me how to grieve. Because if you knew my backstory up until 18, I mean, I had 17 losses by 18 years old, and they were tragic losses. I mean, I really, based on that, if I had that trauma that moved with me and that didn't affect me ongoing, because my parents showed me how to grieve the loss of someone in your life. And so at the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, the rooms, and we are raising funds right now for a place. What we do is we incorporate this. It's not there yet. This is, that's why it's on there. So we have been raising funds, and we want a place where we can do it in that place. But right now we do it with individuals, where the rose and thorn is we unpack all the thorns from the situation, maybe within the relationship, maybe from friends and situations that have happened since the loss, so that you can appreciate every petal in the rose. Because sometimes when we have losses, it's not just the initial loss and the things within that. There are things that come after that. And so we want to make sure we're unpacking and we're helping that process so that you can really appreciate. We really cannot have the rose without the thorns. The thorns are a protective barrier for that rose to have not just its beauty, but the fragrance. So we want you to experience the beauty and the fragrance that is permeated from that rose. The butterfly room is talking about things from the past, the traditions that we have lived by that have been so important. It's what marked us as a family and as to who we were in that season of life. We start talking about the traditions that maybe were just for that season of life, and they need to be surrendered, and we need to incorporate new traditions because it's part of being in the newness of living again. And some of those traditions can come forward with us. So which ones does everyone want to bring forward, and which ones, and what makes you feel uncomfortable, what makes you feel uncomfortable, and what makes you feel comfortable? So as a family, we talk to the individuals together with each other, so they can then say that tradition would really be at a 5 for me of causing me to be triggered and a lot of pain. I don't want to do that anymore. Okay. So if it's something that the parent needs, then they need to find a way to do that away from that child. And these are doable things. It's just you've got to be cognizant and work through them. And then in the butterfly room, it's about you're in a cocoon in grief. And it seems really dark. It seems very lonely in there, because truly grief is a journey we all have to do. And we can have a community that surrounds us, but what I'm experiencing, I have to walk through myself. Someone can't do it for me. And so in that cocoon, there's a transformation happening of the involvement, the evolving of who I am to be. And I have to be willing to evolve so that I can pump those wings and I can thrive, versus barely pumping and not making it. Which, if anybody doesn't know, if a butterfly cannot fully pump its wings, it dies. And that butterfly never comes to be. And I believe that in grief, we're given that same opportunity time and time again, and through the traumas that we experience. And then we have the art therapy room. Some people really need to be able to express themselves therapeutically in a different modality, and art is a beautiful way to do that. And we have several ideas and creations that individuals can do if they just don't have something of their own, They can make a memory box. They can put pictures of their loved one, and they can have that where they write down past memories and they place it in the box, or they can write down things they're thankful for about that person, about their life, and they can put it in the box. So there are numerous things there. The music therapy room, my son is an accomplished singer, songwriter, beat maker. So he uses his skills to help people who do not have the ability to verbalize their pain. If they want to write something, he will help them put it to music. He gets it to music for them. So they will have that ability to not just have that expression, but to have it, the expression musically where they can listen to it. And hopefully it evokes healing for them. And he's done that with some people and they've really loved that. It's been very beneficial to them. And honestly, that is how my son really worked through his grief, was through music. That was a tool, that was something that was able to minister to him. The garden, which the garden is so essential for all of us. And in my book, I actually write about the garden. We all have a garden with our name on it. There's a gate that we can choose to walk through or not at that garden. And when you go in the garden, it's our grief garden. And Father, Jesus, and Holy Spirit will meet us there. And it is the most amazing, incredible experience in that garden as to what we learn about ourselves and the grief journey we're on, with the comfort and the healing of the Trinity present with us, of how they collect our tears, how they water this garden and ourselves with the tears, and that new things come within that garden. And we don't want to miss the garden. I just can tell you, you don't want to miss the garden. So the reason a place is because with grief, many of the people that we deal with, they're still living in the places where the trauma triggers them. Because there's the trigger in the space or around the people. So if we can remove them, for them to have a reset, some rest, resources, and to be able to then incorporate all of these. And we also have, we didn't talk about the workout room. The workout room is really for mobility, some somatic movement, and to be able to release all this bound up, pain and trauma that's within us, as well as resetting our frequency. So music, we go back to frequency. Music has a frequency, and we have a healing frequency, and we have one that can cause us to be sick and depressed and anxious. So music is a part of also the exercise room in the hurts that are being played, with that releasing, because we want you to have the optimum healing experience. So we want to cover the body, the mind, the soul, and the spirit. And when you're at the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, you will have clean eating. There will be no carbs, no sugars, because when we're grieving and in trauma, quite often people turn to the sugars and to the comfort foods. And what your body needs is more of a Mediterranean diet, so that you can not have inflammation and you can have the healing that your body needs to be able to release the toxins of the grief. So if people do not release the toxins and they don't grieve, they haven't given themselves permission, Liz, then their body keeps the score and they get sick. And it comes out with heart problems. It can have liver issues. We can have breathing issues because of the shallow breathing. It is not uncommon for people that have had losses to come and say how many times they've had pneumonia or bronchitis, because it's real.
Yeah.
So we really want for people to understand this is the whole body that benefits from the Sterling Rose Sanctuary.
So, Marcia, you said it's in 6 locations?
No. We serve people all over the U.S. and in 6 countries. We're
Okay.
raising money for the actual place of the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, and we're well our way. We're just waiting for the rest of it to come in so we can get that place and we can start implementing in the place. I serve on the phone all day, every day.
Well, I want you mentioned the garden, and you said it's part of the book. So I'm going to pull the book up so we can talk a little bit about the book. So this is an incredible book to grab before the holidays, and then we'll talk about the holiday seasons and tips and tools. So if you just want to share a little bit with my audio listeners and my viewers that what the book, the cover looks like for the audio listeners, the colors and all of that, and the title and all that good stuff, Marcia.
So, Gripping Grace in the Garden of Grief, A Place for the Heart. This book has been called a companion for grievers, not by me, but by those who have reviewed it, read it, and are using it. The book is really about the way I processed my losses, but it was in such a unique way, Liz, because when my first son passed, I said to the Lord, I don't want to miss when you show up. So keep my eyes open to see your God kiss every day. Well, there were several. And I love photography. So all the pictures in the book are pictures that I took, that the Lord gave me in a place where I was grieving. And there was a writing that I had written that actually corresponds. I had, was sharing my heart with the Lord. I would write it out and he would just give me this amazing picture that would just kind of connect it all together. And he's the one that said, this needs to be in a book, because it really is about how we allow ourselves to experience the pain, to give expression to each of those emotions, yet releasing it and receiving the healing in that moment to move to the next moment and the next space of whatever that healing is going to look like. And I do talk in the book about we choose daily whether we live from the tree of life or the tree of death. And in grief and with negativity, that is from a tree of death. And so when people have, and it's about reframing the mind. So when we speak negativity, quite often after death, these are some of the things I will hear people say, I'm never going to get over this. Well, yes, you will. See, Jesus said he came to heal all people. He didn't say you would never get over it. If you speak you're never going to get over it, then guess what? You're never going to get over it, because you're speaking and your body's going to line up with your words. But if you speak, I know this is a process and I'm going to walk through this process and receive the healing that the Father promises, then guess what? You're going to receive the healing that the Father promises, and you're going to be able to breathe again and move again and live again. The book is also talking about the different, I talk about Sterling, I talk about Mark. It's all in there. The mental health that happened, the mental health struggle that happened with my son, because that became a very real issue as well. This is a lot to happen in a small amount of time. Yeah. And I give in that book that we receive treasures from the dark. And if you're walking out of something and you're not taking some spoils with you, you better go back and get them, because there's spoils for you to take. And I have a section on that because I think it's so vitally important that we understand we just didn't go through that and then just walk out. There is purpose. We get to take some fruit with us from that place. And it's beautiful. It's not this ugly, petrified piece of wood that's just sucked every bit of life. It is flourishing and there's life to it. And so I want people to understand there are things that we take out and that will be incorporated within us for the next trial that we're going to embark upon. Because guess what? We have others coming somewhere down the road.
I just think that the book is beautiful. It's a calming, the cover is really calming. and it brings that fragrance of the lilacs, I believe is the flower that's on there. And when you walk through a lilac garden, it calms the mind. It opens what's ahead. And it goes back to that word again. When you're walking through that garden, we're going to be okay again.
Yes.
And some of the words that people look at as hard and dark, like grief, are actually opening our eyes to seeing what's out there for us still. What message we have to bring to the table, what purpose we have to bring to the table. You mentioned music, and I want to get into it. I wasn't sure if it was your son or not. I found the song Rise Above Everything. Was that your son that?
That is.
So tell
and
us
on our website, there are songs that he created for the Sanctuary of Loss and Grief. And one of them we collaborated on, Teardrops Fall. We wrote that together for the sanctuary, and it is beautiful. It's to be of encouragement to people that where the tears fall, there'll be a new rose, there'll be new growth. It will come. And I think when we are walking in a place where death has hit us, we need that encouragement. We need that reminder that it's not going to stay this slimy, dark pit.
Well, Marcia, before we went live, we talked about the holidays.
Yes.
And you wanted to talk about some little tools and tips people can use during the holiday season. Again, permission to celebrate in different ways. I believe it has a lot to do with the butterfly that you mentioned. So if you want to share some of the tools that people can use during the holidays. I know the holidays for me are rotten, but I put on a brave face for everybody else. And at the end, it's me crying by myself when I'm alone because of the children, because of the grandchildren. So we do these sacrifices to grieve in our own way and in private. So for people who are suffering through the holidays, what tools and tips would you have for them?
Well, and I want to address something. Right now, we've got a lot of estrangement that is going on within our society of children and grandchildren from parents and grandparents. And I'm hearing weekly from those people that are suffering from that. And so when we get to the holidays, I just want to say there are a few things. One, give yourself permission not to do things the way you used to do them. We did not stay at home the first year on the holidays. We went away. I didn't think it would be healthy for us all to sit and look at the empty spot at the table. We already were reminded most other days, and the holidays for us were very special times and very meaningful. So we decided we would go somewhere, and we did. Let people know that have invited you places or that you're inviting that I'm giving myself permission that if I get up and need to leave the table or if I need to leave, I'm going to leave. And if you're not okay with that, then I can't join you. It's very simple. This isn't about their permission to you. It's about what suits you. It's being mindful that things don't have to look the way they used to look. Stop trying to recreate what was and create something new. When we try to go back to the place where it was, I'm just reminded that it's kind of like we freeze as that pillar of salt. We really weren't meant to look back in that way. We were to glance and when we glance, it's to glance with thanksgiving and with gratitude. But when we turn and look and we are staring at it, then it really can cause us to come into a place where we really were delivered from. And when you're with people, you don't have to express to them where you are, but it is important that you give yourself permission to be who you are in that space and that you're true to you. And to be kind to yourself during the holidays. I'm a preemptive person, so for us, we think of things that we're going to do beforehand. We don't get in the place. What I find is most people who are grieving, they don't think and they're not proactive to do something about what's coming. And then they get in the space and it pulls them in a very dark place, that hole. So before you get to Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, whatever that particular time your family got together, think of other things that you could do. Other people that you could be with, that could be a celebration or a time where, you know what, could we just get together and could everybody share a memory? See, we can do that. We can also take and get our pictures out, and you can make something as a memory for a gift for yourself that this person wasn't here, but I want to reminisce. I want to get some pictures out. I want to bring them into the space. That's great. You need to determine how your best healing journey is for you. And I feel like the holidays become this place where everybody imagines other families are all sitting around singing Kumbaya. And we're just, oh, it's just wonderful. That is not the case. I work every day with people and I hear about their families, and Kumbaya is not being sung. It's like, please deliver me. It's please deliver me. Because most people have not resolved family stresses and issues. And so again, maybe the holidays are not the best time for you to meet with those people. Say, you know what, I'm going to take her. I'll see you later. I might see you in February, but this year we're not going to be joining. We're going to do something else. And that's okay. There is no formula for the holidays, but I feel like because we have been raised in this culture somewhere of this imagery that it's all perfect and it looks great. First of all, I need to tell you, we're all flawed. Yeah. Every one of us. I'm including myself, my family. We're flawed. We're dysfunctional. However, it's how we manage in the dysfunction, how we really go through those moments. But boundaries are good. And many of you are very afraid to exert a boundary, but you need to exert a boundary. A boundary could be what really keeps you from mentally imploding this year, because you said, I'm worth not being around this family or these people right now. I just need to go do something else. And then you can do whatever with them later at different times. Maybe you don't need to be with all these people at one time. Sometimes that's not healthy. So I think we have to evaluate, Liz, the healthiness of our intention and when we're going in a space with other people, and allow for what is happening with us to speak and to help us make the best decisions for ourselves and possibly for the other people that we may be overseeing, for parents that are overseeing their kids.
Well, Marcia, you know, society tells us how to look, right? How to act, how to be. When we show dysfunction and flaws, society is like, what are you doing?
But it's real. That's who we are as a society. And we're, to try and fake it till you make it, that's only brain damage. And you're the one that's going to suffer from that. So I'm not a fake it till I make it. I'm very authentic, very vulnerable, very real about this is where we are. And this is how we're going to do things. And we'll figure something else out at another time. But ever since our kids have passed, we've done different things. Some things we couldn't do, wouldn't do, don't want to do. Other things we brought with us. Like we love arts and crafts. So we all sit around and paint, and we do some really neat, creative, artistic creations at the holidays. And Thanksgiving, we spent the whole day painting. We had a blast. Not your traditional, but we had a blast. Right? We loved it. And we had chicken salad, and we had lentil salad and deviled eggs. And it was great. We didn't do turkey. We didn't do all the traditional things.
I'm the same way. I like to switch it up. I'm like, we do turkey and ham all the time. Can we not make lasagna? Can we not do salads? Could we not have a cooking contest? Like
Yes, I love
everybody,
that.
bring a dish or something. Like do a potluck. It doesn't always have to be the traditional turkey and ham or lamb for some people that do lamb. Uh, I like to switch it up. And I always like to put a twist in there. So when it comes to Christmas time, my grandkids are always like, "What's Grandma going to do next?" And I'm
I
just
love
like,
that.
you got to wait and see. It's a hard time for me because there's a lot of grief around Christmas. But the little ones, it's like, what do we give the little ones to remember? That moment of grace or that moment of, you know what, I'm taking time for me. And I've done that a couple of holidays. I've said, you know what, I just can't show up.
Hmm.
I will see you on Boxing Day. I will see you a couple of days before, but I cannot see you on Christmas Day because Christmas Day is just too hard for me. Um, I'll give you a phone call. I'll call and see what the kids got for Christmas. But, I like to change it up. Marcy, what final message would you have for everybody? And where can they find out more about the Sterling Rose Sanctuary? If you could spell out the website for all the audio listeners.
The website is www.thesterlingrosesanctuary.us. I want your audience to know that healing is available for all people, that they have to choose with intention to get healing. And that when they do get healed, they're not leaving behind their loved one. Because quite often people think, well, I'm like, no, you're not. You're actually learning how to incorporate it in you to move so you can breathe again, move again, and live again in your created design. If you are living in grief and it's been years, then we need to do some work. We need to start processing that pain so that you can have a sense of newness and walk in it. And to realize that if you're fresh in grief right now, because I know some of you are very fresh, that where you are today is not where you're going to be tomorrow or the next day. Grief does require us to give grace and to be grace filled for yourself and to allow yourself to walk in the place where you allow the emotions and the physical part of what you're feeling to have expression. And I would really encourage, write a letter. We talked about holiday things. Write a letter to your loved one at the holidays, sharing some thoughts, some memories that you have. Make something, create something for your loved one in memory of your loved one. Because see, they're the things that if it nurtures you, that's what you need to be doing. Bake your favorite loved one's dish and enjoy it. We, on birthdays, that's what we do. We go and eat their favorite food, or we prepare their favorite food. And you have to find what it is for you that helps you. I mean, the things that we do are not necessarily things that you may want to do, but there are things that you can do that will help you continue in this journey and to know that there is life abundant still here for you. It doesn't matter if you are 20 years old or you're 105 years old. There's still abundant life left here for you.
Well, thank you so much, Marcia. I really enjoyed this tea time. I got a lot of pointers. I got some stuff to check out for myself, and you gave me some tools to get through the holidays as well. So thank you for that. I'm just going to do a closing summary of what we did today. What a meaningful and heart-opening tea time. Marcia, thank you for sharing the vision behind Sterling Rose Sanctuary, and for reminding us that healing begins when people feel safe enough to breathe again. Your work shows us that compassion in action can change lives in lasting ways. This afternoon, we were reminded that restoration is not rushed. It unfolds when care, patience, and dignity leads the way. You taught us that sanctuary is more than a place. It is a promise to protect, to uplift, and to walk with others as they reclaim their strength. To everyone listening, may you leave this tea time inspired to create safe spaces in your own world, to lead with kindness, and to believe in the power of community to heal what was once broken. Until we meet again, keep choosing compassion, keep serving hope, and keep pouring love one cup at a time. And I'll see everybody at 7 p.m. for the second tea time tonight.